Taylor.
Sorry about that. I was dropping the kids off.
Oh, you're all good. You look familiar.
Got a familiar face, huh?
Yes, it's wonderful to meet you. Wonderful to see you. Um, just confirming we got 30 minutes, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, let's roll. Let's
We
do
can
this. I feel like I have to say this. Wonderful makeup, by the way.
Thank you. On. Thank you.
No, you look wonderful. For people that don't know, Taylor, season 5, Love is Blind. My wife and I got sucked into the whole Love is Blind atmosphere, if you will. Did you? I'm just curious. Like, what were your expectations when you, I guess, went through the whole process of like signing up, not just signing up, and also whatever happens after that? They accept you, they interview you. Like, what happens after that?
Yeah, so I actually got an email, or not an email, an Instagram message, like a request, and then a message about Love is Blind. And I was like, this is a scam. Like, there's no way this is real. So I think I ignored the first one. And then the guy was like, hey, this is real. We're not kidding. And I was like, wait, this is actually so cool if this is real.
Wow.
And so I didn't apply for it. It was just through Instagram. And then I did have to go through like the whole background check and some interviews and stuff like that. And then once they told me I got it, I was like, holy crap, this is real. But honestly, like when they asked me, I had been single for 4 years. So my expectations, like I went in looking for a husband.
That's amazing. It's really cool because we watch it from an outside perspective. We also know Netflix, not just Netflix, but in general, TV and reality
Mhm.
TV tends to bend things or edit things. Basically, kind of what you see is what you get, is what you're
Mhm.
saying, or is there things that is just kind of like, Netflix kind of edits out some things.
I mean, there's stuff that's definitely like edited out. Like for me, for example, like my situation, you didn't get to see us dating for as long as we dated, right? You got to see like a couple of pod dates. And so there's definitely stuff that's cut out, but I mean, really what you see is how it really was. But
Yeah.
there's
Did you have any hesitation on falling in love with someone that you hadn't seen? For me, I'd feel like that sounds cool, but it's like, do I really want to do like? I'd be so nervous at the same time.
Yeah, no, I was definitely nervous. But I think just like after talking to him for those like long, long days and long hours,
Hmm.
I was certain about it. So like by the end of it, before we met, I didn't have any like fears or doubt in my mind. Maybe like early on, I was like, wait, I'm crazy for doing this. But you've seen it like in past seasons, the couples work out. So I had hope.
Mm. Yeah, I guess that's another question I had too. Is like, what were your expectations, and did being on the show actually kind of live up to them, or how did that work?
Yeah, because like I had watched past seasons, like I said, and I guess it lived up to my expectations. Obviously, I wanted a different outcome. But everything was, oh no. Can you still see me? I'm sorry.
You're good.
Everything was basically like the same that I thought. Other than the living situation, I guess they thought we were all gonna kind of live together and we had our own place. That was different. But other than that, everything kind of lived up to what I thought it was gonna be like.
All right, so I am kind of curious. I got to ask. My wife was like, ask her what the living situation is like. I was like, all right, I'll ask her. Yeah, what is the living situation like that we don't get to see?
Yeah, you live in a hotel by
Oh,
yourself.
you do? Oh,
Yeah,
by
you have
yourself. Okay.
yeah, you don't they just, they want to catch everything and so that's how it is.
So is it filmed in like a studio and you actually leave and walk outside and go to a hotel?
Mhm. Yeah. You get in a
Okay.
car and go.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I want to take advantage of like all these questions of you.
Yeah.
I will
I'll
say
I can answer.
I'm not on here just to grill you about Love is Blind.
Oh, you're
One,
good.
okay, so I would say what 20 minutes into episode one, I would say give or take is when kind of like they do your interview. And I just watched it again just the other day.
Huh.
And it definitely caught my eye immediately because the first thing you had said was like, I was at a place a few years ago where I didn't really love myself. And I got to a place where I became more confident in myself and I started to love myself. And that's why I'm here. for me personally, that's like music to my ears. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's the type of person that like everybody should find or everybody should want to be with. And once I heard that, it's like I said, it caught my eye because I feel like that's maturity, self-awareness. That's something that I'm constantly trying to achieve, and that's something I like to have people on my podcast to talk about. And so I heard you say that, and then I followed your journey throughout the show, and I was like, I mean, my wife and I are pretty open. I'm like, I would date her. Like, she's awesome. I was like, I just kept saying every time they showed you guys, I was like, Taylor would be my number one. Like, I would definitely date this girl. Like, she is awesome. She's great. So as I mentioned in our emails back and forth, we're Team Taylor in this house. We love you and who you are, and how you represented yourself,
Thank you so much.
not just in the beginning, but when times got tough, you can say, or whatever. I still feel like you were super mature, and I was like, personally, I was like, I'm glad you weren't just like along for the ride just to get more extra camera time or whatever comes with that. You made up your decision, you went with your gut, and you was just like, all right, and that's kind of it for me.
Yeah.
So I was like, good for you, good for you.
Thank you.
I'm also curious too. We'll talk about that. That's what we're going to talk about. We'll talk about that in a
Yeah.
second. But when was this filmed? We are talking November 1st, 2023. When was this filmed?
This was like over a year and a half ago now.
Wow.
So yeah, pretty crazy. And I felt like for the past year and a half, I was like, did I wear too much makeup to the reveal? Like, I'm not sure, because
Oh man.
and then I saw the preview come out and I was like, I did not wear too much makeup. Like, absolutely not. But I really thought about it for like the longest time. Like, did I look terrible on TV? uh,
I can
but
imagine that messed with your head quite a bit until like the release. And then was this something you kind of like was like, God damn, now everyone's gonna see this? Like, was that going through your mind a little bit?
about everybody seeing it.
About everyone seeing, like, I guess the conversation that I mean, you were in the wrong. Like, I kind of want to go back real quick to what happened to people listening. What are they talking about? But
Yeah.
like, it's not like wrong or right or whatever. But I was like, I think 99.9% of the people saw your perspective. Like, what the hell is this stuff?
Yeah.
What is going on here? Like,
Yeah.
were you just kind of waiting for that to just kind of be out in the open?
Honestly, yeah. But I didn't know, which parts of our relationship they were going to take and put on TV.
That's
So
true.
I didn't know if that was going to be on TV. I was in a way hoping it would be because like I did think what I did was right and it was like the strong thing to do. And I feel like a lot of women or even men stay in relationships that are just toxic for them and they stay in it because they don't think they can get any better. And they're being belittled. And so for me, I was like, I'm hopeful that that's shown so it can help out people that are in those situations. But I had no idea if it was going to be shown or not.
Yeah, that's a good point. Did you feel like you had to live some life in secrecy in the last like year and a half or so? Could you talk about this?
No, you can talk about it.
Wow.
It had to stay like low key. I mean, obviously, like my family and my closest friends knew. I always joke, I'm like, if I would have just pieced out for 3 weeks, there would have been like a missing persons report all over town. So, like, I had to tell my closest people.
Okay, so I'm curious. So if let's say you were to get married, what are you like contractually like liable to like do or not do? You just can't share. You can't tell anybody.
Yeah. So you just can't tell anybody. So like the couple that did get married, I mean, they didn't post, they didn't talk about it. Like obviously their closest people that went to the wedding knew and
Right.
people from the show knew. But other than that, like you cannot talk about it.
I feel like such a dweeb asking this question, but is love blind? I feel like I have to. I feel like I have to ask you that.
No, it's fine. I still say yes because like I fell for somebody blindly,
Mhm.
but I think there's so much more to it than just like I guess, emotional connection. I don't know. Like physical is not the biggest thing, obviously, right? But it's part of it.
Mhm.
And he wasn't physically attracted to me. So that caused damage to our relationship. I think a sexual attraction is also important. And we had no sexual chemistry. And so that damaged our relationship. So I think, yes, I do still think Love is Blind, but I think there's a lot more to that, you know?
Yeah. Would you say you need more than love to make a relationship work?
I mean, I think when you really love somebody, you make it work. But I think looking back, I don't think JP loved me. So maybe that's why it didn't work out, in the end. But
Hmm.
I think when you really love somebody, love can take you all the way, you know?
Yeah. And I'm thinking, like, putting myself in your shoes, like, for people that probably like, how could you fall in love with someone that, you don't see? Um, but I'm thinking, like, how many of us have actually dated with no distractions? Like, you guys
Mhm.
had no distractions, right? It was 100% focus on the person you were talking to.
Yeah, we had no phones, no TV, no family, no friend. Like the friends were our friends in the girls in the living quarters or whatever. And you are 100% focused on that person. And I think that if more of us did that, even more of us would, fall in love or, find whoever we're looking for. But it's so hard. Like when we have our phones, you go on dates and you start looking at Instagram while you're on a date or whatever, and you're not even focused on who you're on a date with. Whatever. That's just an example, but you don't have that there, which is really, really nice.
It is, right? Yeah. Did they take a moment to get used to is not being able to pick up your phone or check things?
Oh yeah, I'm like have my phone attached to my hip. And I'm so close with my family and friends. So it was really hard. Probably like the first week was really hard for me. And then I kind of got used to it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, honestly, there's a part of like jealousy that comes along with like watching you guys date and just like have conversations being like one on one with each other. It's like we don't even like do that. And not
Yeah.
just for dating, but like just life in general. Like how refreshing that must feel just to be completely present in the moment.
Yeah.
Like that's one. Has that taught you anything? Now,
Oh yeah.
like when yeah, it does. It did.
Yeah. I mean, the whole process taught me a lot. Like, so I'm now dating somebody. He's the best, but
He's very lucky.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, he's great. He's so sweet. But before that, I was dating, got back into the dating world. And for me, I feel like the whole process changed it for me. I started to focus on like the important stuff super early on dates, whereas maybe a couple years ago, I was focusing on looks or height or did they make money? I mean, which is important, but it's not the most important thing. And now I really focus on like, do our values and beliefs line up? Like, because if not, we're not going to get along at the end of the day.
Mm.
And so, yeah, it taught me a lot. I'm definitely more focused when I go, out with people. Like I said, I'm taken out. But beforehand, like I wasn't going to pick up my phone on a date after Love is Blind. So it definitely taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about dating and about myself.
That's great. Yeah, I remember when I was single and dating, like when people would be on their phones just texting other people, it was like that was like the biggest pet peeve of mine
Yeah.
by far.
Yeah. It's so
Um
annoying. I was
yes.
probably one of those people.
So I'm like, I really like this girl, but she keeps being on her phone. So I don't know if it's gonna work. All right. Well, it sounds like you've learned a lot and some growth. So I think that's a really good segue into like the main gist of why I wanted to have this conversation with you is to kind of hit on the first interview that was shown on Netflix. It's just your growth as a woman. And I would love for you to kind of talk about that, assuming that you're comfortable talking about that and perhaps some things that people can take away from this, some advice that you would have to share because like I said, like you're still pretty young and the way you carried yourself, the maturity, uh, I don't know where you fall as far as ages of people on the show, but I was like, this girl has it together compared to like most everybody that I saw on the show. So I think we all can learn something from you and the growth that you had. So if you don't mind talking about your journey, that would be awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So, a few years back, I was in a very toxic relationship. And I think that's kind of when I started to, I don't want to say like hate myself, but I started to look at myself differently. I was like unhealthy in a physical way and a mental way. And I remember it wasn't anything I did. I didn't lose a bunch of weight. I didn't drop somebody. It wasn't anything like that. I prayed, I journaled, I leaned on my family and friends, and I eventually got to this point where I was like, I'm miserable. And I'm
Mm,
not doing this anymore because I have one body and I have one life and life's too short and we're not ever granted tomorrow. So I'm not doing this anymore. And I remember just waking up and looking at myself in the mirror and being like, this is it. Like, it's a new day and I'm going to I'm going to change. This is it. And so after that, it took some time, obviously, but after that, that's when I got healthier physically. But I also dropped people that were bad for me.
Was that hard?
I mean, yeah, it's always hard dropping people because it's not like I didn't love those people. It's just they weren't good for me. And I think, yeah, it was hard. But at the end, I came out on top, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was just a moment that I had. And I'm so glad I had the moment. But I think with family, friends, God, honestly, that's what got me there. But yeah, I think growth is hard. I think change is scary. But I think once you get to that certain point, I don't know, you're a different person, you know, you look at life differently. Life is so much better. It's so much brighter, you know?
How do you look at life differently now than you did a few years ago?
Well, I've always been like a kind person, so I can't say I was like mean back in the day because I wasn't, but I was just like negative about certain things. And it's like now I'm so much more positive. And I honestly, like I said, I feel like life is brighter. Like I feel like every day is going to be a good day. And even if it's like I have sad moments or bad moments, of course, everybody does. But at the end of the day, like life is good and I'm here and it's short. And so I want to enjoy it.
So as far as that turning point goes, you just woke up that one day and saw yourself in the mirror. Did you make like a conscious decision? Was there something that led up to that moment?
I think just like being put down by the person I was with. I was
Were you still in the relationship or did you get out of it at that point?
So I was out of it, but we were still communicating, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
It was not healthy at all. But I think just being put down so much and I was getting cheated on. And it just was a moment where I was like, he had done something that drove me to this moment, which thank God, because it changed me. But he had done something that drove me to this moment where I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I'm a good person. I have a good heart. You know, I need to fix this. And so, and I won't like speak on what he did necessarily, but yeah, it was just, I woke up and I prayed and I prayed and I was like, God, I need a sign. And God gave me that sign. And then I looked at myself in the mirror. I also think something that's really cool is like, you know, being positive to yourself while you're looking at yourself in the mirror. I think that's a huge thing. Therapy, there's so many things that you can do to get you to the point that, you know, you want to be at.
Thank you for talking about that because I was curious to know like what specific steps you took that worked for you. Granted, like everybody's life is different, everyone's situation is different, but like it or not, people probably look up to you. And so if you give people like, hey, this is what I did, you can give it a shot. So what are some of those things I know you just said therapy, perhaps fitness, like journaling, like hit on some of those things that work for you.
Yeah. So therapy, I went a couple of times. And then, like I said, journaling was really big. I actually got really into journaling when I was on the show. But journaling, like I said, praying if you're a Christian or a believer. And then like leaning on the people that love you because they're not going anywhere. So my parents were huge in that. My grandparents were huge. My sister, walking outside. I know that sounds silly, but just like nature and being outside, it's so good for like your body and your brain. And it just like released so many emotions that I needed to like let go of. And I still walk outside like a lot. And just doing things for me that I like to do. So like telling people no occasionally. It's okay to tell people no, you know? So yeah, I mean, traveling was something that really helped me. I got really into that. Even if it was just like 45 minutes down the road to the beach or whatever, just little things like that helped me out.
It's funny you just said kind of like doing things to make you happy. I had a conversation not too long ago on a recent podcast. And he really talked about he's a coach, he's a life coach, and he's talking about like filling up your own cup first before you start filling up other people's. And I think that's hard for a lot of people to grasp, and honestly, including myself sometimes, right? Because I think many of us kind of learn to like put others before you sometimes. Don't be selfish. It's considered selfish if you just kind of like work on yourself and you say no to others and don't help them.
Mhm.
But the more conversations I've had, the more life I've lived, and just talking to you right now, it's like you really do learn how you've got to take the time for yourself to fill your own cup, to get your own enjoyment out of life, so you can kind of then share that with others. Is that something, were you doing that before this big transformation, or is that something you kind of learned along the way?
Um, it's definitely something, well, I started before the transformation, but I learned along the way. I feel like I used to put people before me, and especially like people I dated, and I thought I needed them to make me happy. And then
Mhm.
it was like that realization, which is like, I sorry about that. I make myself happy. Nobody else is going to make me happy, right?
Mhm.
Can't control anybody, can't make, anybody do something that they don't want to do. And so, yeah, just like living for me, which like I am still a selfless person, but I put myself first. And I think that is important to remember for sure.
What is self-love to you, if you can define it? Because I think it's one of those terms a lot of us hear consistently, like, oh, you got to love yourself first. Or after you like have a breakup, it was like, well, work on yourself,
Mhm.
make yourself happy. Like,
Yeah.
what is that to you? And correct me if I'm wrong. Is it a consistent, I want to say battle, but kind of like a grind that you have to constantly keep putting work towards?
Oh, yeah. I will still like catch myself sometimes being like negative to myself.
Mhm.
And like even the other day, I was like, this, or like, I was talking about my body. And I looked at my boyfriend, I was like, I have to stop doing that. Like now I have to stop. You just like, you have to catch yourself, I feel like. Cause if you keep being so negative towards yourself, then other people are going to be negative towards you. And you're also going to be negative towards other people. And it's just like this big mess. Right.
Mhm.
But, for me, yeah, self love is just, I mean, that's such a hard thing, I think, to explain because there's so many things that go into it. And like, yeah, putting yourself, first and making yourself happy. I honestly think it's just doing things that you want to do that make you feel good. So if you, I'm just going to use this as an example, want to wear makeup, put on the damn makeup. Like, if you don't wear it. If you want to
Right.
get filler, go get filler. If you want to go to the gym, go to the gym. Like, do things for you.
Mhm.
And I think like your life will just change. But self-love is, I feel like it's such a hard term to explain,
No, it
or just
really is. It's such a generic term, so I appreciate you
mhm.
kind of just diving into that for a moment. And would you say self-talk is something that you thought about? Is that something that you work on?
Self-talk.
Yeah, the way you kind of talk to yourself or talk
Oh
about
yeah.
yourself. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like I said, like the other day, I literally had to stop myself and say, I'm done. Like, gotta stop doing that. Cause I have my moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, I gained 3 pounds. I need
Mhm.
to whatever, and it's like, uh, it's okay. Like, relax. It's not a big
Yeah.
deal.
You hear that a
Um,
lot from females, but I know guys go through it too. We just don't outwardly kind of say it, I
yeah,
guess, if you
yeah,
will.
are different.
We all have our moments. And it's funny
Yeah.
you say this because my wife Kristen, I love you, but like we're halfway through the pregnancy now. She's pregnant, and
Yay.
her body is obviously changing. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of conversations behind closed doors how she's trying to get used to that. She's someone that's an athlete. She's consistently been fit. Diet, nutrition's been important to her, but
Mhm.
the body changes when you get
Yeah.
pregnant. So
It's
a
hard.
lot
I
of
feel
yeah.
well, I mean, as women, I mean, definitely with pregnancy, but like even from like high school to college and then college to like adulthood, like your body is always changing.
Mm, mm,
But I know my sister dealt with, look, there's my sister right there when she was pregnant. She dealt with that body image thing. Like, and even now her baby is over a year, she's still dealing with it. So I know that's hard for a lot of women, but
mhm.
you are about to make a child or you are making a child, and that's like such a freaking cool thing, and I think you should just embrace it. So
Yeah.
tell your wife to embrace it. Are y'all having a boy or a girl?
We found out a few weeks ago we're having a boy, and
Yeah.
we had the anatomy scan this morning, and everything is wonderful. He is very healthy. It's great to say he now instead of like it.
Yeah.
Um, I will 1000% say, hey, Taylor says to embrace it. So listen to Taylor because she knows what she's talking about. We are definitely Team Taylor here, like I said. I know we only have a few minutes left, but would you consider yourself a celebrity now? Like, do you get, I mean, I'm sure you get noticed, right? And I'm sure you get hit up a lot. And like, what's your life? How's your life been since the show?
Life's good. It's busy because I'm obviously still teaching. And then I started a website with my sister for hats, and we're going to add more to it eventually, probably like makeup bags and stuff like that. So that's been really fun. Honestly, life's been so fun, just busy. But I don't know if I would consider myself like a celebrity. But
People know you, and you get people like me just, hey, do you want to
no,
connect?
it's so fun. It's so fun. And I love when people are like, hey, are you Taylor from Love is Blind? Yeah.
That's pretty
It's
cool.
fun. I love it. And Snooki followed me on Instagram, and I was like, Snooki followed me? Like, maybe I'm like a mini celebrity.
No, you really are. And like I said, like, I don't know, you made those few sentences right in the beginning that caught my attention. And that's the reason why I reached out to you and I wanted you on this episode. And I think, like it or not, there's probably a lot of girls out there, women, girls, that see you and they look up to you now because of what you said, your growth, the growth that we just discussed, how you handled yourself, how you continue to handle yourself. The reunion didn't get as much airtime as I was hoping you would get.
I know.
When was that filmed?
I think 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. It was like we filmed it and then it was out like
Oh, that it was out.
yeah.
Okay. I always wonder with the timing of these things,
Yeah.
but I am so thankful for your time. I have one more question for you. Well, actually, two more questions for you. One of them is like, where can people find you, follow you, work with you? Please share that.
Instagram, TikTok. My username is the same for both. It's Taylor M. Rue. Somebody took Taylor Rue. Don't know who it is, but Taylor M. Rue. And then I have a Cameo. You can talk to me on there. But yeah, it's where
Awesome.
you can.
I will link everything in the show notes as well. So people scroll down, go ahead and click on and follow you. You're a great follow. And I want to ask, is there anything you would do different?
Like on the show?
Yeah, on the show. Is there anything you do differently, or are you happy with the way everything turned out?
I guess I'm happy with how everything turned out because I'm happy now. But looking back, I probably should have given more people my time. I was so set on JP so early on that I just cut everybody else off. And for the longest time, I did regret that, but not anymore because I'm good and I'm happy. But if I could go back and tell anybody that's about to go on the show, give everybody your time. Like, don't just cut people off because you think, day 1 or 2, who you like,
Well, I'll tell you what, Taylor, I will let you go, but you're welcome back anytime. I have way more questions for you at some point. So I'm happy to dive in whenever you're available. Taylor, thank you so much for your time.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Stay in touch.
Bye. Okay. Bye.